Let's spend a few minutes talking about essay structuring. Um, the first and most important thing, and if there's one thing you would take away from this session today, is that the thesis in your essay is the most important part of the essay. And in case you're not familiar with the concept of a thesis, it's a very straightforward concept. It's pretty much the main argument you're making in your essay. Essays for university admissions and essays in general are not meant to just be fact-based. You need to have an opinion. You need to have an angle. You need to be coming into the debate with your perspective. And in this case, the debate is between you and the admissions officer to say, you should admit me into your university. And the admissions officer is saying, why? And so your answer is basically the thesis. And it's the main argument that you're making in your essay. And to go into details, the thesis is typically one clear sentence. It directly answers the essay question, and it serves as the focus of the entire essay. It's the heartbeat of your essay. The rest of the essay has one purpose in life. It's just to support the thesis statement. When we think about structuring of a typical, if you will, 5-paragraph essay, or in this case, an essay for university admissions purposes in the US, I like to think of an introductory section, the supporting section, and the closing section, which all consist of paragraphs. In the introductory paragraph, I typically like to start my essays with just a couple of sentences, 2 to 3 max, introducing the topic of the essay. Could be a short story that's relevant to what you're going to talk about. Could be a statement of belief or a point of view, but it should lead nicely into the main point of your essay, which is then the thesis. And again, it's that one sentence which summarizes the main argument of your entire essay. It's the central theme, and it should be the last sentence of your introductory paragraph. So the introductory paragraph starts with 2 to 3 setup sentences and introductory sentences, and then the paragraph ends with your thesis. You hit the reader with the main point of your essay right then and there. Then you can have a certain number of supporting paragraphs. Could be 2, could be 3, depending on how you want to structure your essay. But each supporting paragraph should have a theme to it. And each of the themes need to link back to supporting the thesis. And the theme of a supporting paragraph is written in the topic sentence, which is the first sentence in a supporting paragraph, which supports your thesis argument, and it also describes the main point of the paragraph. So a supporting paragraph starts with a topic sentence. That topic sentence needs to be supporting your thesis, and also is the main point of the rest of that support paragraph, because the whole purpose of that paragraph is to ultimately support your thesis. And so after the topic sentence, you'll include about 4 to 6 sentences, and these are all estimates, of course, 4 to 6 sentences that support your topic sentence with details, with illustrative examples, with experiences, and reflections on the impact of those experiences. So the topic sentence makes a statement, and the supporting sentences back up that statement. And it's important to make sure you have good illustrative examples, good experiences. You want to go into detail so that readers of your essay can relate to what you're talking about. You can have 2, 3, however many supporting paragraphs you feel you need to support your thesis. But ultimately, you're going to close off your essay with a closing paragraph. And it shouldn't be as long as a supporting paragraph. It could be, it could be 2 sentences, 3 sentences, 4 sentences. But what's important to do is you need to start off the closing paragraph by restating kind of what argument you've been making throughout the essay. And then you close off just by having typically a forward-looking perspective on, where you see the implications of the essay moving forward. So how do you see your life moving forward? How do you see your career moving forward, or the way you're thinking, or whatever it is, but something that's forward-looking. And that's your typical structure for an essay for university admissions purposes. So I'm sharing an example of a really good essay that I've come across, and I call it the suitcase essay. And the question that was asked to the applicant was, what matters most to you and why? So I'd encourage you all to pause the video at this point and spend a couple of minutes just reading through this essay, getting a feel for it. And then afterwards, we're going to break this essay down into the structure that we just talked about. Okay, so going back to the essay that we just reviewed previously, that we just read, let's look at the introductory paragraph. We had a couple of sentences to set up the entire discussion. And here the applicant kicks off the essay saying that he believes himself to be the reincarnation of Ibn Battuta, who's a really famous explorer from the 14th century, who is well known because he traveled thousands and thousands of miles over 30 years and documented all of his travels. He actually wrote a book that he called the Rihla. And what the applicant is saying is, as he continues his journey and his life's journey that's required him to travel across the world, he's also learned lots of invaluable lessons through his travels. And then he hits the reader with the thesis. He says, my suitcase is what matters most to me because it serves as my rihla. It allows me to carry the lessons learned throughout my life travels. And of course, the suitcase here is metaphorical, really implying that the applicant is kind of documents what he's learned, what lessons he's learned throughout his travels around the world. But that's the thesis, and the rest of the essay is gonna talk about how this applicant cherishes travel and what lessons he's learned throughout the travels. Let's go through one body paragraph and break it down. So in the third body paragraph, the applicant kicks off the paragraph with the topic sentence that says, I often joke with friends and family that I never really lived in Saudi Arabia, despite spending my formative years there. So the applicant's going to spend the rest of this paragraph talking about his time in Saudi Arabia and how he actually he actually lived in a bubble within Saudi Arabia because he attended an American school and so was taught, U.S. history, was kind of ingrained into like the American culture and American education. But at the same time, he was surrounded by locals and lived in a country that had a lot of different cultural aspects to it. And so he talks about how this contrast of what he experienced within the bubble and what he experienced outside the bubble in the same country really shaped the way he thinks and really shaped the way he kind of views the world from his own lens. The closing paragraph starts off with a restatement, and this is where the applicant tells the reader, we know a lot about Ibn Battuta, the explorer, and his travels because he documented them through Rihla, but we actually don't know much about what happened to him after he returned home following his 30-year journey. And then he finally closes, the applicant closes off the essay saying, reflecting on his own travels and saying, some experiences are great, some were difficult, but all of them helped to shape who he is today. And he's still excited about continuing to set sail and continuing to travel throughout his life and keeping that metaphorical suitcase in hand and nearby. What I think will be really helpful for each of you now is if you spend a couple of minutes just looking through the list of Common App 2020 questions, which you can find on the next slide in a second, picking one and spending 15 to 20 minutes writing your one-sentence thesis that directly answers that essay prompt. So here's the list of questions from the Common App for the 2020-2021 application cycle. Look through them, pick one. If you want to pick more and spend more time practicing writing a few thesis statements, that's great. But for now, I'd say just pick one and really think about how you would answer and make sure it's one sentence, clearly answers the question and really brings out something unique to you.